Most people know Vanderbilt University as the laughingstock of SEC football. The program has won 0 SEC championships, has only been invited to 9 bowl games in program history, and has only won 3 SEC games in the past 4 seasons. But contrary to popular belief, there was a time when Vanderbilt had a competitive football program, and not just a one-year fluke either. From 2011 to 2013, the program rose to unprecedented heights. This consistency had to do with one man, James Franklin. Before he became the Penn State head ball coach, Franklin had things rolling down in Nashville, beating ranked teams, bowl game wins, finishing ranked in the top 25. The future was as bright as it had ever been for the Commodores. It's a time that is easily forgotten, but I remember vividly being in middle school and watching the quote-unquote smart school start to have some success in the mighty SEC, and was so intrigued. So today, we're going to look back at the short-lived but exciting golden age of Vanderbilt football.
1, 2, 3, oh hell yeah!
This story starts on November 2010, just hours before kickoffs in the Commodores' final game of the season against Wake Forest University. First-year head coach Robbie Caldwell announced his resignation. Caldwell had been thrust into the role of head coach after the surprise resignation of longtime Vandy head coach Bobby Johnson a mere 2 months before the start of the 2010 season. The resignation was a rock-bottom moment for a program that had shown so much promise 2 years ago. In Johnson's 7th season in 2010, the Commodores had a banner year, securing its first winning season in 25 years at 7-6 and ending a 53-year bowl game victory drought by defeating Boston College in the Music City Bowl. Fast forward 2 years later, and Vandy had won a mere 4 games in that time span and lost 2 head coaches. The next head coaching hire was going to be huge. Athletic director David Williams had a tough search on his hands to find someone to stop the bleeding at a place that was already hard enough to win at. Early on, the leading candidate was the Auburn offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn. Malzahn was viewed as one of the top offensive minds in the country after leading Auburn to a national championship, and Vandy made an aggressive push for him. However, Malzahn leveraged that interest into more money from Auburn and decided to stay. They say everything happens for a reason, and with Malzahn out, that opened the door for a person that would take Vanderbilt football to a new level, James Franklin. Franklin had come from the University of Maryland, where he served as the offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, and head coach in waiting. He was seen as a popular head coach prospect because of his strong recruiting, but many wondered if he would leave Maryland, where he was slated to be the next head coach. This head coach thing was such a guarantee that Maryland would pay him $1 million if he remained at Maryland and was not named head coach by January of 2012. However, the allure of being a head coach in the present was too good of an opportunity for Franklin to pass up, and he was announced as the new Vanderbilt head coach in December of 2010.
It's time for this program to unite as one, and I'm very, very confident that I'm the man to get us there.
If you're enjoying the video, leave a like and subscribe below. Both of those things help me continue to make good content. Now back to the video. One thing that became apparent when Franklin arrived in Nashville is that he could recruit. With only a couple months on the job, Franklin put together a solid class headlined by flipping 4-star recruits LaFonte Thurgood and Dylan Vanderwall from Virginia Tech and Arizona State respectively. Going into the season, expectations were practically non-existent. The previous year, they had only won 2 games, and many predicted they would repeat that performance in the fall. So anything better than that would be a success. The Commodores opened up the 2011 season with 2 non-conference night games at home against Elon and Connecticut. The Commodores routed Elon and hit a late 4th quarter field goal against the Huskies to start the season 2-0. The next week, they faced Ole Miss in the battle of SEC basement supremacy, where Vandy destroyed the Rebels 30-7. Now at 3-0, this season could be considered a rousing success. And good thing they secured those first 3 wins, because the next 3 games, they played the big dogs of the SEC in South Carolina, Alabama, and Georgia, and saw their record fall to 3-3. Jokes aside, this season was a stark improvement over the last 2 years. After the Georgia game, the Commodores were really competitive in their SEC games, losing to number 8 Arkansas on a missed field goal and only losing by less than a touchdown to Florida and Tennessee. Even better, they beat Army, Kentucky, and Wake Forest in the season closer to finish 6-6 and bowl eligible. The season would end with a loss to Cincinnati in the Liberty Bowl, but the season was an unquestioned success. They improved, were competitive in some conference games, and going to a bowl made the Vanderbilt seniors the first class in program history to qualify for 2 bowl games during their time at school. While a very low bar to achieve, you have to start succeeding somewhere, and the crazy thing about this story is that there was much more winning in Vanderbilt's future. In early 2012, the Vanderbilt athletic department really rode the momentum of the previous season and put a lot of money into the football program. In February of 2012, athletic director David Williams announced the football stadium would be getting a new jumbotron, new artificial turf, new lights, and a new grass field on the open end of the stadium for fans to sit picnic style. All of these renovations would be finished by the fall, and the newness didn't stop there because that summer, Vanderbilt revealed new uniforms. They added a white helmet and made some changes to some of the existing uniform colors to give themselves 27 different uniform combinations for the upcoming season. So with a new stadium and new uniforms, Vandy clearly made a lot of moves in the offseason. And going into the season, Vanderbilt had a favorable schedule, avoiding Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas, while returning a host of players on defense and running back Zach Stacy, wide receiver Jordan Matthews, and quarterback Jordan Rogers on offense. For the first time in a while, the fan base was excited, and some whispered that the Commodores could even become bowl eligible again. The culture was changing, and Franklin had all of Nashville ready for some Vanderbilt football.
I asked these Vanderbilt players yesterday, what's the difference about this team this year? They immediately told me a story of James Franklin in practice getting in the faces of his kickers for not bringing enough energy. They said there's a complete culture change.
The 2012 season opened with a primetime game hosting number 9 ranked South Carolina on the opening Thursday of the college football season. Vandy was competitive throughout and was up 13-10 going into the fourth quarter. The crowd could feel an upset coming, but South Carolina scored early in the fourth quarter to go up 17-13, and that was where the score remained the rest of the night despite Vandy's best efforts with a 50-plus yard kickoff return and a huge missed pass interference call in the last minutes of the game. This was a tough loss, and the following week the Commodores faced another tough loss to a Northwestern team that was unranked at the time, but ended up being pretty good in 2012. Honestly, the first half of the 2012 season was rough for the Commodores, as they started the season 2-4 with 2 more losses against top 5 ranked Georgia and Florida, but picked up wins against Presbyterian and Missouri. After a tough first half of the season, the Commodores stayed the course and had a remarkable second half. The team racked off 6 wins in a row, with 4 of those being SEC wins. There were some normal close conference games against Auburn and Ole Miss, but some shocking 3 touchdowns or more blowouts against rivals Tennessee and Kentucky. The Commodores finished the season 8-4 and saw themselves going to consecutive bowl games for the first time in the school's 123-year football history. The Commodores were selected for the Music City Bowl against North Carolina State, and the Commodore faithful didn't have to travel long to make it to the historic game since it was being played in Nashville. Over 55,000 fans, mainly wearing black and gold, filled LP Field to watch Vanderbilt beat the Wolfpack 38-24 to finish its historic season 9-4 and ranked in both the AP and coaches poll. This was a program-changing year for Vanderbilt football. This team reset so many records, including the first 9-win season since 1915, 5 wins in SEC play for the first time since 1935, the first home win versus Tennessee in over 30 years, and ended the season with the longest win streak in the conference. Individually, many players wrote the record books too, as Zach Stacy became the first player in school history to rush for over 3,000 yards in his career and have back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Jordan Matthews broke a single-season record with 1,262 yards receiving, and kicker Casey Spears set the record in points scored with 81. As James Franklin said after the NC State game, Vanderbilt's not going anywhere, so get used to it.
The Commodores have taken care of business, and the James Franklin saga takes one more big step forward here in Nashville.
The offseason before the 2013 season was very different from the offseason of 2012. The team was caught up in a major controversy when 5 players had to be dismissed from the team in connection with a horrible rape case on campus that summer. I won't go in depth with that, but I can imagine this team had a lot of things on their mind that was not football related. As the season approached, people had expectations of the Commodores. They weren't going to be sneaking up on anyone anymore, and many preseason rankings predicted them in the middle of the conference. When August rolled around, the 2013 season started almost the exact same way as the 2012 season. The Commodores opened the season at home on Thursday night against SEC foe Ole Miss in the all-black uniforms. It was a really entertaining back-and-forth affair that Vanderbilt should have won, but they gave up a 75-yard touchdown run with 1 minute left in the game and threw an interception when in scoring position on the following drive to snap their SEC win streak and fall to 0-1. The following weeks, the Commodores found themselves 0-3 in SEC play with losses to number 13 South Carolina and Missouri, but had won their non-conference games to be 3-3 going into their matchup with number 15 ranked Georgia. The Dogs were a touchdown favorite and fighting to stay in the race for the SEC East crown. The game started off close, but Georgia began to assert itself and were up 27-14 in the fourth quarter. The Commodores said not so fast though, because the fourth quarter was all Vandy, and a lot of Georgia mistakes. The Dogs had a muffed punt, a fourth down targeting call, a muffed long snap, and a fumble with 2 minutes left in the game to really help Vanderbilt out. But the Commodores were opportunistic and took advantage of all of Georgia's miscues to put up 17 unanswered fourth quarter points and stun the Dogs. It was Vanderbilt's first win over a ranked opponent in 6 years and the signature win of the James Franklin era.
Vanderbilt gets their first win over a ranked opponent in 6 years.
The Commodores finished the season on a 4-game winning streak to become bowl eligible for the third year in a row with an 8-4 record. While not as dominant as last year's team, this squad was gritty and found ways to win in the fourth quarter. That bowl season, the Commodores headed to Birmingham, Alabama on January 4, 2014 to play against the Houston Cougars. I remember that game vividly because Vandy was practicing at my local high school. In the game, Vanderbilt blew a 24-point lead in the second half to make things interesting, but they recovered and scored 17 unanswered fourth quarter points to win 41-24 and secure its second 9-win season in a row, a program first. So the Commodores had been in 3 straight bowl games and 2 back-to-back 9-win seasons. What was the next ceiling that James Franklin could break in the black and gold? Well, we would never find out because 1 week after the bowl game, Franklin was announced as the newest coach of Penn State. It wasn't a huge shock given his insane success at Vanderbilt made him a popular head coach candidate, but Vanderbilt fans were upset by his quick exit, especially as Franklin is someone who can sell passion and he really played up Vanderbilt as being a long-term stay for him. But you can't really blame him. Franklin is a Pennsylvania native, and that Penn State money makes you rethink things really quickly. Vanderbilt worked quickly as well and hired Derek Mason, defensive coordinator at Stanford, on January 17, 2014 to take over the program. Reflecting back on this 3-year span at Vandy is really interesting to look at. On one hand, James Franklin didn't recruit any of the major contributors such as Zach Stacy and Jordan Matthews, but he is a master motivator and really made this team believe they could win. The success that he had there was insane, and the program hasn't gotten close to 9 wins since Franklin left. So will we ever see Vanderbilt achieve this level of success again? I don't know. Especially in this NIL landscape, it's going to be even tougher for Vandy to compete against the top dogs in the conference. But no one thought Vanderbilt could have back-to-back ranked seasons, and it happened. James Franklin showed it's possible to do the seemingly impossible, and it's why we play the game. So thanks so much for listening. This was a really fun video to make, especially as someone who was really into Vanderbilt when they had this little streak. I really wish they would have gotten the 10 wins, but you know, that's what happened. So thanks for watching, and please, like I said, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. See you next time.